as we moved forward into it, I'll try to make the long story short, but I was kind of mad at myself and really down for about a year and a half because I had paid like for 4 or 5 of these coaching programs, and I still hadn't done anything yet, right? Like I didn't get my real estate license until 2009. This is now 2005 is what we're talking. And I was mad at myself. I finally was like, you know what? Forget this. I'm going to do something. And I have a shampoo bottle. So I love your podcast, first of all. I mean, I should have started by doing that, right? Like, I love everything about your theme, about who you have on your podcast and their whole setup and their scenario. I'm going to obviously plug you. You don't need a plug for me, but I mean, to relate to that, I had a shampoo bottle in my shower, right? This might be way too information. I won't ask you to picture me naked in the shower. I won't do that, okay? But we have a shampoo bottle, and I remember thinking to myself, like, I had way more hair back then too, by the way, for the record. I remember looking at that shampoo bottle being like, I have to get one real estate deal done by the time the shampoo bottle goes to zero. And I'm at like a quarter, 25% left in the shampoo bottle. It was a Suave bottle, nothing really special, but I didn't have an accountability partner. And now we're going back on it. That was what I used as an accountability partner, was the stupid shampoo bottle in the shower every morning, seeing it dwindling down further and further. And I was frustrated. And every day, I didn't really know what I was supposed to be doing. Like, the coaches taught me a few things. My mindset was right, but I couldn't quite get off the ground and get some traction. And all of a sudden, by the way, tell me this is way too long. I'm okay with that. Like, just tell me to shut up.
Awesome, dude.
I was mad at myself. All of a sudden, I got this contact that emailed me from Minnesota, from out of state. So I'm from the Boston area. This guy emails me. He's like, hey, listen, you're trying to get in real estate. I see you very active online. I have access to all of these undervalued pieces of real estate here in Minnesota and in Wisconsin. And also, I have this database of lease option tenant buyers that are already in place, that once we close on these properties, they're going to come in and rent these properties higher than market rent, and they're going to have a contract to buy that property in 3 years, 20% above what we pay for it right now. I'm thinking to myself, like, wow, okay, not only is this like the best deal I've ever heard, this guy's going to teach me kind of the in-depths. I didn't know anything about lease options or rent-to-owns or anything like that back then. He's going to teach me everything. We're going to get in here. And back then, in 2005, you could make money at the closings. I'm sure you remember all this, Josh, yep. Where you could, be it legal or not now, we would close on a house $450,000 to the seller. And completely legally back then, they would turn around and hand us a check for $50,000 at the closing table and say, thank you so much. We appreciate it, right? So the goal, the partnership, and how that was all set up, this gentleman out in Minnesota and Wisconsin said, listen, here's the deal. I need a credit partner. I can't sign for these loans. I've had some credit issues. I need you to sign on these loans, but I'll find the deals. I'll line up these tenant buyers. I'm going to manage those properties, and in 3 years, we'll manage the resale for you, and I just need you to sign the loans for them. So I'm like looking at my shampoo bottle. I'm like, this is it. This is my opportunity to at least jump in. It's not local, but this is it. So I didn't buy one of them. I decided to if I buy one, I get $50,000 back at each closing. Well, screw this. I'm going to buy 5 in 1 week, because why not? That's what I do, right? So I did. We closed on 5. All of them were either 90% or 100% financed deals. And I was all excited, got all these checks back. The guy made 40%. We were making 60%, right? And we got all these checks, and it funded all of my consulting and education and coaching that I just paid for. And then we had our Monday morning call, which was to next steps and the tenant buyers and this and that, the purchase and sales agreements. And the guy didn't show up for his Monday morning call. We're like, where is this guy? What's going on? Like, these properties, we just bought all these, and what's happening? We have 10 loans on these. And as it would turn out, the business model was not what he said. There were no tenant buyers. There was no contracts. We believe that there was a lot of forging that had happened. He showed us due diligence and all this stuff. So my first 5 deals in real estate, he was gone. So I now were paying an attorney to try to chase him and property managers to try to manage these 5 single family homes. And my first 5 deals in real estate, as it would go down in history, I lost all 5. And as a banker, you're expected to have a certain financial situation, a certain credit score. And my credit score was not even there, especially with 10 loans. If you think about it back then, if it was all 90% financed, I had about 10 loans on all 5 properties. They were calling my cell phone every 43 seconds. Collections calls, automated collections calls, just calling, EMC Mortgage Corporation all the time. And it really put me in a really dark, bad place. So I lost 4 to short sale. I didn't know what a short sale was back then. And one was an approved short sale, but the EMC Mortgage had moved their headquarters during the exact week, apparently, that they were approving that short sale. That one ended up as a foreclosure in my credit report. So I basically put my head in the sand. I still had my job, thank God. I put my head in the sand. I was like, what the hell just happened to me? Let me take a step back, breathe, figure this all out, and find out what's going on in my own head. I still had one course that I had paid for that I hadn't taken yet. It was with one of those self-help guys. It was a hypnotist. I don't know if you heard of Marshall Silver was his name. He was a Vegas guy. So I had one course laid up. I'm like, you know what? 6 months later, I already paid for this. Might as well go take it. And it was just a self-help guy that, in that room that day, he's like, whose fault was this? It was my fault, right? I did this. I made these choices. I made these mistakes. I didn't analyze these deals properly. I didn't know what I was doing in real estate. Once I took ownership of it, once I said this was all me, like I can't be mad at this guy anymore, no matter what he did to me, like I need to create and turn this into a positive for me. And despite my credit score, despite my new cash situation, like screw it all. Like, what did I learn? Where do I go from here? Like, do I want to work at the bank the rest of my life? Do I still think there's something here in this real estate game? Like, where am I supposed to be? And I took that time, and once I took ownership of it and realized that was all my fault, and now I had to set my own rules and systems and consistencies in place and kind of get my mind right again. Once I had figured all that out, which took another solid 3 to 4 months, so it was like 7, 8, 10, 9 months after this all happened, I finally realized, real estate's still this thing. I know there's a way here in real estate to get out, and I just got to figure this out. So I started slowly. I networked locally. I started going to some of those real estate clubs that are in the area, and I met this one guy who was buying and condoing a whole bunch of. In Boston, we're really well known for there's no more land left or homes left here in Boston. The land is there, right? It's all either going to be underwater or it's all built in 1800. So there's everything's wrong with it. They're all about to collapse, but they're still there. So we do a lot of condoing here in the hot markets. So I met a guy who was condoing in the Boston suburbs. He taught me what he looked for. He taught me a little bit more about construction. He taught me kind of what he was looking, everything. So at nights and weekends, I made a commitment to myself after I made my rules to go out and literally knock on doors. I was knocking on doors for a solid 3 months, nights and weekends, Somerville, Cambridge, and Massachusetts. And most of them were tenants in 3-family buildings, but I would get to the tenants and kind of get to their landlord and make the phone call and do my best to find out if we could strike a deal. And if we could strike a deal on my contract, I would then turn around and sell that contract, which is very much frowned upon and now as a licensee. But back then, you could flip contracts back in 2005, 2006 to end investors. So I learned an awful lot about marketing, about prospecting, about consistency, about what this guy looked for, and about how to find deals for a buyer I already had lined up. And that really taught me everything I needed about this business. And long story short, 6 months later, with the money I was making from this guy kind of paying me to flip these contracts to him, I had enough money saved up for my first down payment with a hard money shark loan on my first 3-family condo conversion here in the Boston market. Didn't make any money on that. I broke even, but that was the biggest win I had ever had because I had done my own deal. I controlled it. I didn't rely on a partner. I had my own systems in place. And from that one deal, back in 2006, the good news is we're at about 200 projects, as I mentioned, and we've maintained profitability on all except 6 deals at this point. So we're pretty solid on the rehab front, and that's really how I got started. Was more from the investor buyer angle. Getting licensed was really just a matter of I tried to work with a few different agents in my market. And honestly, these agents that we had here in my market, they were, all of the age of 60, there's nothing wrong with that either. But they didn't quite understand that I was putting my money out on the line, both on the buy and the sale front. And if they're going to tell me a resale value that I was going to get and they couldn't meet that resale value, that was money I'm losing out of my pocket. And for them, it was like, oh, well, it's just a price reduction, just 10,000 here and 20,000 here. But to me, if I'm only making 50 grand on that deal, $20,000 is a lot of money. So don't tell me what you're going to list it at. I want to know what we're going to sell it at. And sure, you can test the market if you're in a hot market, or if we're in a slow market, you're going to list it 5% below what the market is right now. And that's why I ended up getting my license, because, well, probably I was a pain in the ass to the other agents that worked with me. So,
yep. Love it.